All right, I'll say good day. As you say, on your planet. Happy Halloween. All Hallows Eve. Samhain. Whichever way you choose to approach the idea that this is the season of spirits, we will, in keeping with that theme, now remind you that the title of this transmission is Ghosts. Now, we do not necessarily say this to make you feel spooky or scared, but to simply go through all the different ways in which individuals that are physically alive may experience what they perceive to be ghosts. So we will start with the idea that is more traditional, in the sense of a spirit that is capable of lowering its vibration enough to be perceived by the senses of the living, that you typically refer to as a ghost, a spirit, when it appears in your world, in your reality. The idea being that spirits who pass over, as you say, who die, who transition, may not always go all the way for a variety of reasons. Some may have unfinished business on earth. Some, because of their belief systems, may not have had a particular expectation or assumption of what they would experience in the so-called afterlife, and thus be a little bit confused about where they are. Some even may not even know they're dead and are wandering, looking for reasons why no one can hear them or see them. But now and then, either due to a lowering of their vibrational frequency, sort of similar to the idea of invisible ultraviolet light lowering its frequency to become visible as part of the visible spectrum of light, going down into violet and blue and so on and so forth. If they lower their frequency, they may become visible to those in the physical realm, or those in the physical realm may have enough sensitivity to perceive that spirit, even though it may not always be visible to everyone. But for some reason, they are still closely connected energetically to the physical realm of Earth, due to some of the reasons we have said or other reasons, and thus are still in their mind living among you, wandering among you, occupying the old houses, so on and so forth, what you typically refer to as a haunting, which doesn't in any way, shape, or form have to be malicious. Simply another person in another state, living in a place among the living. But the idea is that in seeing these beings, there is no way without communicating with them to know the reason why they may still be in what is referred to as the lower astral realm, very close to the vibration of physical reality, lowering their vibration enough to be perceived by physical beings. And this is the older and original definition of an exorcist, sort of a spirit psychologist, to communicate, find out why that being is in that state, why they're still lingering around Earth, which doesn't always have to be for a negative reason. Sometimes, when spirits cross over, and they act, in a sense, as guardians, spirit guides, for those who are still living, there may be reasons why they can learn to lower their vibration, to interact with the living in certain ways, even to the degree of appearing solid as a living physical being. This takes some skill and some practice on the part of spirits to do this, because once you are in spirit and in that high frequency vibration that is generally invisible to the living, it is actually not as natural for a spirit to go back down into the lower vibrations and become perceivable to the living. But there are those who may have reason to do so, to appear to the living in certain ways, to deliver messages, or perhaps as a protector, to alert living people to certain ideas, certain situations and circumstances, be it dangerous or not. So those spirits may have a high degree of need to lower their vibration to interact with the living and be perceived as living people until such time as they raise their vibration again and vanish before your eyes. And so there may be great need to do this, or they may simply have chosen to practice the ability of raising and lowering their vibration in order to interact with the living for a variety of their own reasons, or agreements they may have made with the living people with whom they interact. Now, beyond the idea of it actually being a spirit, a ghost per se, that you're interacting with, that is live in real time, as you say, there may be other effects that exist that can be interpreted as seeing a ghost. And one of them is the idea that in the fabric of space-time, everything is recorded. You might say, again, as people on your planet often name it, the Akashic records have a kind of video sort of ability to record things as well as audio or pure information. And all that information is available here and now because everything exists here and now. So again, for those that might be sensitive enough, might extend their senses far enough vibrationally to pick up on certain things that may have happened, linearly speaking, in the past, and perceive the recording, it's etched itself into the fabric of space and time, they may be seeing a recording of sorts, an echo of sorts of things that have been, or even will be, in your linear framework, and perceive that as a living ghost, even though it is simply an echo, a recording, something etched into the fabric of space-time, and is no longer actually present. These kinds of perceptions will usually appear to be repeatable. In other words, a person may say, oh yes, this place is haunted, and at midnight, every 3 days, you see this woman walking down the hallway into this room, and so on and so forth. And if that keeps repeating, it might not be what would be termed a living presence. It might actually be a recording, repeating over and over again when the conditions are right to trigger it, or when the conditions are right in a person's senses to perceive it. So a lot of things that repeat themselves that way may actually not be a living presence. It might be, but it may not be, because it could simply be etched into the fabric of space-time and repeating on a loop. Another way that people might perceive the idea of a ghost that is not a ghost in the classic sense is the idea of peering into parallel realities. Sometimes the so-called barriers between one reality and another will overlap, will weaken, will align vibrationally in some way, shape, or form to allow a person from your reality to actually perceive, although perhaps faintly and dimly, people in other realities. And therefore, in suddenly seeing an apparition wandering through your reality, you might perceive it or think it to be a ghost of someone who has passed over, but in fact you are actually seeing a faint representation of a person in another reality who is just going about their business, but may seem to you to be a ghost. And they may be able to perceive you that way at that moment as well, and go back to their friends and family with tales of having seen this ghost. And they're just describing you, because again, the veils between the different realities may have weakened for some reason at that point, because these fluctuations do often happen. There are doorways and portals that open to different dimensions on a regular basis, and some of them are random, and sometimes these openings and closings can allow one in your reality to peer into other realities temporarily until they close again. And sometimes these are interpreted as spirits and ghosts when they are not, in the classic sense, such a thing. But the idea of this season is to allow yourself to open up to the potential communication that can exist between you and spirits, spirit guides, family members who may have passed on, soul family groups who may never have even incarnated. It is the ability of your senses to stretch into that realm, especially if someone close to you has died and is encouraging you to stretch your senses to connect with them in the spirit realm. This is the perfect season and timing to allow yourself to practice this. And this will be the subject of our meditation today to give you an opportunity to do so. So, allow yourselves during your Halloween season, while having fun, playing scary, while having fun being spooked out, while having fun imagining all sorts of strange apparitions and so on and so forth, keep in a corner of your mind the realization that this, in the vibrational cycles of Earth, is also when the veils are thin between the physical and the non-physical. Because remember, the physical is just a projection of consciousness. You yourselves, in a sense, are projections of consciousness as physical beings. So you yourselves, in a sense, are all ghosts, because your natural state is as a spirit, and you are just pretending to be in a physical, solid reality. So you are all ghosts in physical reality, which itself is a ghostly apparition of a consciousness idea that you are exploring. So in remembering that, it can amplify your ability to remember that all of these spirits are right with you and you are right with them, still in spirit with them, while dreaming that you are not. Allow yourself the opportunity to feel that and maintain that connection and increase that connection between yourself and the spirit realm, becoming more lucid and conscious about the fact that physical reality is, in a sense, just an apparition that you're playing around in. And allow yourself this opportunity, because as we do approach the idea of the window of contact and the increase in the splitting prism into different parallel versions of Earth, maintaining and increasing your connection to the spirit realm that you occupy now, right now, as your natural state, will serve you in a variety of ways that we will go into the closer we approach to the beginning of the window of open contact. And serve you with the idea of making contact, because many extraterrestrial beings are extra-dimensional beings and actually have attributes, just as our civilization does, of both physicality and spirit. And thus, the stronger you connect to the fact that you are a spirit, as you say, not so much a human having a spiritual experience, but a spirit having a human experience, you can identify with us more strongly every day and allow the idea of open contact to be a broader experience with many different kinds of beings who are not just physical extraterrestrials in the way that you think of us, but occupy many different dimensional planes just as you do, who are simply aware of the occupation of those planes just as you can become. And therefore blending and melding and merging the idea of physical and spirit in a way that allow you a great deal of freedom, a great deal of expression, and a great deal of being your true self and expanding what that really means in your world. So be the ghosts in this season that are physical, and have fun when we do our meditation to expand your senses and stretch your senses into the realm of spirit.
Hi, my name is Maria, and I've been through 12 years of pain and suffering, trying to find a way of healing. I pray. I know there's hierarchies at different levels, and spirits, and also enlightened spirits that might be able to help me in my healing process and help me heal. So how do I vibrate in order to, or resonance in order to obtain the needed healing? Thank you for your help.
I know this may sound a little strange at first, but you need to take a vacation from your expectations about what you think you're supposed to be and who you think you're supposed to be. Take a break and go exploring. Broaden your horizons. Allow yourself to reach out into different situations that are unusual for you. See what comes up in terms of releasing your passion and imagination and inspiration in the world. Because remember that pain is resistance to your natural self. So you haven't been specific about what you've been suffering through, But I guarantee you, all pain is resistance to the true self. So unlock yourself from your insistences and expectations about who you think you need to be, where you think you should be, what you think you should be doing, and take a break and a vacation and explore things you have never explored before to broaden your horizons and see who you truly are. Good day.
Good day, dear Bashar, the Association of Worlds, and to all who are listening. Arthur here.
Yes, yes, and?
Dear Bashar, my question is, do I understand correctly that which we know as the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, and as the idea of the crystal skulls, is an ancient way to communicate with spirit or with the higher self or with a specific consciousness, that this is the way in which we will use AI, or that this is the way in which the crystal skull is related to what we understand as AI, as a form of quantum interface?
Yes.
What is the skull's connection to Passover?
Well, the skulls existed before such a time. And the idea is not a direct connection to what you're talking about. Only in the most general sense could it be connected to the concept of Passover. But it isn't really.
Would it have to do with the energy being spread around the planet?
Yes, in a communicative form, a unification, a bringing together, a tying together, an alignment with the energy grid, especially the crystalline grid of your planet.
Which is why it is so important now to work with the grid and to send love down the grid?
Yes. If that is the way you are attracted to do it, yes. There are many ways.
Thank you. Yeah, Bashar, one of my great passions is to create portals in the shape of geometric sculptures that are big enough for people to lay in or sit inside of.
All right.
One of those is a copper dodecahedron. So far, I have played around with this permission slip using the Schumann resonance, but I've also used it to silently broadcast your birthday meditation while playing it simultaneously aloud a speaker.
All right.
So my question in relation to that is, which are the frequencies that you would suggest to pump through such a structure?
7.85 cycles per second.
So the Schumann frequency, thank you.
Because it connects you to nature, it connects you to earth. And from there, a person can alter the vibration within themselves to whatever point it serves them to do so.
Thank you. Would you like to share with us something about Anubis, and could you tell us a little bit something about your siblings?
Anubis as an archetypal energy will again be the exploration of the spirit world, what has been called the underworld. And again, it harkens back to the connection of going through a passage, of allowing yourself to understand that there is a strong passage, connection, doorway between the physical and the non-physical. It's the awakening to yourself as a spirit, that you've always been a spirit, and that you can allow that spirit energy to pass through into the earth through that passage and awaken to the understanding of your true essence, your true nature, which is what Anubis, in a sense, is reflecting by being the god of the underworld, the god of the spirits. What else did you wish to know?
Would you like to share with us something about your siblings?
Are you saying civilization?
Your siblings?
Siblings, is that what you said?
Yes.
No, not at this time.
Okay. Is there anything that Cyber would like to share with us?
Not at this time.
At what height is your ship located over Bell Rock at this time?
1,280 miles.
Thank you. What is my connection to the Mantis beings?
You're part of the hybridization agenda and therefore have encountered them.
What is my connection to Arcturus?
It's an energy gate that allows you to remember more of who you are and express more of who you are as a spiritual being in physical reality.
I'm very grateful for our interaction together, for the Confederation. My unconditional love to you all for being this anchor upline on time. Thank you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. My question is around my greatest passion and love for nature, and I'm dedicating my life in every way to contribute however much I can to serve the greatest well-being as well as the harmony between humans and the natural world. And so my question is, in the understanding that we do not shift a reality by trying to fix the current one we're on, it's by aligning with the one that we choose. And so am I reinforcing a reality I do not want, such as a logging project for a forest near my home, even if it's in a positive way, promoting awareness and such? Am I reinforcing that reality? Should I be just letting it go and just only focusing on my greatest joy and connection and ignoring that side of it? Or is it okay that I'm actually contributing or participating in this way? I would love some help on how to focus my energy to be of the greatest service within the dichotomy that I feel of my love for nature, but also knowing and seeing what's playing out. Thank you so much.
It's not about ignoring things. It's about acting. It's about participating. It's about showing other paths, other ways, other things that can be done. If you are bold enough, if you are active enough, if you are inspired enough, imaginative enough, and remember that communication is one of the forms of abundance, you can communicate to those participating in the logging experience in a way that could perhaps inspire them to find alternatives. Again, that would be the way you would act if you were already in the world you wish to live in, and people from another world came and did things that were vibrationally not compatible with that version of Earth. So it's not about ignoring it, it's about addressing it. It's about standing up and giving them opportunities and options, not that they have to take them. But it is your actions in doing so, without an insistence that they must listen to you, that is actually more representative of the world you say you prefer to live in. That's what makes the difference. And whether they continue with what they're doing or not, it is your willingness to actually be a living example and provide imaginative alternatives to what they're doing that will make the difference in what you ultimately experience in your version of Earth.
Hello, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
Wonderful.
All right.
I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the galactic history of our species today.
A little bit.
Okay, well, to be honest, it all seems a little Dr. Frankenstein-y to me.
How so?
I was reading a book by David Lauer where he talks about the human brain being given to us by the reptilians. Is this true?
No.
Good. Okay. It's very interesting, the information that comes through regarding the reptilians.
Yes.
A lot of misinformation. Why is that?
Because you have been indoctrinated into the idea of a fear reaction for survival purposes. And therefore, the vibration of the reptilians ignites the reptilian section of your brain and goes into survival mode. Fight or flight, fear reaction.
Understood. Okay, so how do you see the human brain? Do you see it as a receiver, a processor, or a transducer?
Well, as we said, the higher mind is the conceiver. The physical brain is, in that sense, the receiver, and the physical mind is the perceiver. So it is a translation device that takes the higher frequency energy from the non-physical higher mind and rearranges it according to the belief systems in the physical mind in a way that is compatible for the physical mind to perceive and act upon those things.
Fantastic. So the human skull is a container that holds the human brain.
It is a resonating container, a resonating container.
Ooh, I like that. Is that how you would also describe the crystal skulls?
Yes, in many ways. They operate on certain frequencies, certain resonances that connect them to other skulls and to other dimensions of reality. They translate things in a certain way.
Do they also hold information?
Yes.
Okay. So as we raise our frequency and we begin to resonate with those crystal skulls, will we be able to unlock more information regarding our galactic history?
Yes. Or at the very
Okay.
least, the history of your planet.
Oh, good. Um, So when you initially gave that crystal skull transmission, it was on Easter weekend. Can you give us more information as to the synchronicity of that timing?
Perhaps next Easter I will.
Well, can you give me a little background on if we will be resurrecting more crystal skulls in the near future?
Relatively speaking, yes, you will discover more crystal skulls in your so-called future.
Okay. But you're not going to tell me how long.
I don't do predictions.
Okay. Um, you also talked about the crystal skulls and their connection to AI, which I understand you've already sort of covered the idea that there's no such thing as artificial intelligence, just intelligence itself.
Yes, and you can have a so-called artificial device that allows the intelligence to express itself.
Okay, great. Can we talk a little bit about the hybridization program?
Certainly.
I am feeling a little more distance with the hybridization program recently.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if this has something to do with the fact that I've recently entered sort of the postmenopausal phase of my life.
Yes, to some degree, but also because the hybridization agenda has shifted into different phases that are no longer exactly what they used to be and no longer dedicated, shall we say, to the idea of the procreation of hybrids. It's gone on to the idea of the expansion of their awareness of the fact that they're coming to live on Earth, the education of the hybrids, and it coincides with the idea that it is no longer necessary to extract genetic material from most of the participants who have been participating for most of their lives. Especially when you go through that kind of a change, synchronistically, the phases of the hybridization agenda are also going through changes because of the timing that was originally agreed upon.
Okay. So this doesn't mean that we've done anything wrong collectively as a species. It's just
No.
more of an evolution, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There's just a lot of very strange information coming out all over
Yes.
the place.
A lot of it is simply due to misinterpretation because of preconceived notions of how things are. So it's being interpreted in different ways by different people who already have an understanding in their own mind about how things work. And therefore they're going to use that particular nomenclature to identify things. They may be accurately perceiving certain things in energy, but again, it's the interpretations that may be taking their cue from outdated and old-fashioned terminology and concepts.
Thank you for clarifying that because it's been kind of heavy lately.
Yes, this is why we have said recently that it's so important to really change your definitions of things and come into a more modern understanding of how things actually work, rather than going off the old-fashioned definitions from the experiences of how they seem to work and really understanding the underlying mechanism that causes the experience instead of going off of just the experience itself as if that were the explanation for how it actually works.
Great. Okay. So in those terms, can we talk a little bit about the feeling of failure? I feel like that is definitely something that I have noticed coming up a lot in my existence and my reality.
Where do you think you should be that you feel you're falling short on?
Um,
What kind of insistence do you have about where you think you should be? And then comparing where you are to that, and then of course inevitably finding yourself being a failure. You're creating the circumstance itself with your insistence on where you think you should be.
okay.
Where do you think you should be?
I just have this like underlying feeling that I should be doing more than I'm doing.
And if that is true, why wallow in the idea that you're not doing it instead of doing it?
Good point.
Thank you. We often make them. Usually the only reason that people wallow in the idea of not doing it instead of actually doing it is again because you have a belief that says that if you do it, you're afraid that something bad will happen.
Hmm.
So what is that fear? What is that belief? What do you think will happen that you're so afraid of if you actually move forward? and do the things that you are obviously hesitating to do.
Yeah.
So you don't have to answer me now, but it's something to think about.
Okay. Great. That's a lot to think about.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Bashar.
It is our passion and our pleasure and our unconditional love. Aveo.